Hello everybody and welcome back to F1 25 with the Slothz team. Moving on from our very unrealistic season opener in Australia, we've upped the difficulty and now we are progressing on to trying to find some upgrades. We've got one of the aero upgrades in there. Very impressive system actually to prevent the issues with previous games of just basically advancing your car incredibly quickly and having the best one on the circuit by having the requirement to actually develop parts. Hopefully they can expand upon that in F1 26 as well as we move through the activities coming up to the Japanese Grand Prix. Quite a long gap between events, so we've had enough time to put some facility upgrades on, get some parts in development, and also make sure that we've got all the activities filled out. I mentioned the difficulties just now. I think we started the season on 77. For this race, we've upped it to 82. It isn't actually high enough yet, so we'll be going higher again for the next race out in Bahrain. As we see Taylor Barnard, cocky, off the back of his win in Australia, immediately jumping to the conclusions that he's worth £18 million a year. But there we go, that's everything done for the pre-race checks. On to practice. As I was doing before on the F1 games, I will be not allowing myself to go through and do the practice sessions myself, because usually I can get all of them done in P1. So we're going to use quick practice because there's at least some possibility that I won't be able to complete all of the objectives. There we go, there's one failure right there. Although if you do get a good run of success, then you can get quite a lot of these done. I think you can see we've already done quite a number of them there. There's 5 of them complete, so we're on track to finish them all. Starting with the resource points, of course, being the most important. Not quite as important in this save, though, I guess, since we're already starting as like the 4th, 5th best team on the grid. So we don't really need them, but of course everyone else is going to be developing at this point, and we really need to catch up. The Ferraris were looking strong in Australia. That continues. More on that later. As we progress through, there's a drag reduction upgrade. These were always popular with me in the past, given my tendency to start with the worst team possible. Drag reduction and weight reduction were usually the most overpowered upgrades to get. Later on, we'll be trying to get some of that rear downforce sorted out, because although here in Japan isn't quite so bad, as we move into the next 2 races, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, it does get a little bit difficult to control the rear end of the car, especially going at high speeds. I think the airflow is stalling out over the rear wing. Control. But there we go, we've just completed all of the practice sessions. So here we go, on to the Japanese Grand Prix, right at the start of the season actually. Usually this comes right near the end, and historically not done particularly well here, or been able to jive particularly well with this circuit. But I think on this F1 game, and I think maybe even 2022, it did get a bit better actually, and I was a bit more comfortable in the car here. But anyway, don't forget to like this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell so you know when all of these videos have been uploaded, and that you don't miss any of the races of this opening season on F1 25 as we get onto the starting grid for the Japanese Grand Prix. Starting things off on the front row, it's the same as Australia. It's Max Verstappen alongside Lando Norris on the run down into turn 1. They will be followed by the rest of the field: Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, Yuki Tsunoda, Oscar Piastri, Nico Hülkenberg and Taylor Barnard, Charles Leclerc and Alex Albon, Isaac Hadjar, Kimi Antonelli, Gabriel Bortoleto, Liam Lawson, Lance Stroll, Carlos Sainz, Oliver Behrman and Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, Fernando Alonso, and on the final row, it's Victor Martins, our teammate, and Jack Doohan picking up a penalty in the second race of the season. So we'll be hoping to build upon the momentum from the opening race of the season in Australia. We did pick up a win, although that was on a reduced difficulty. From here on out, it will only be going up until we hit a realistic sort of finishing position for us, which will probably be between about 5th and 12th, I would expect. Well, we'll see how things go. We're up to 90 currently as of the time of this recording. This video, though, taking place at level 82. So let's get on with the Japanese Grand Prix. So here we are then on the grid, 5 red lights, and away we go. Getting underway here, Max Verstappen off to a great start on the front row. We're sliding around all over the place there as we start on the hard tyre. Under threat from the cars outside of the top 10 who are trying to push through on the soft and medium. Nice mixture of tyre choices going on here as the rear end just goes completely there. Early on in these races with the cold tyres and, of course, the downforce issues I mentioned earlier, we just keep losing the rear, and I don't particularly like driving with an unstable ass. As we retake, 10th place back from Alex Albon, and we try to get past Isaac Hadjar next. We've got to get all the way back up to Hulkenberg to get to where we were, essentially. There's Charles Leclerc as well, who we were racing very fiercely with at the early stages of the Australian Grand Prix. Also starting on the hard tyre. We'll see where he ends up later on in the race as we get past Isaac Hadjar, who's running the soft tyre, and come down towards Spoon here. Wide there, nearly giving the door. A nice wide opening for Isaac Hadjar to push his way through. He does back out of it, though. I think he would have just driven into our rear tyre if he had tried going any further with that. Leclerc on Hulkenberg now. We might have an opportunity going down towards the final corner, the final chicane, as we're up the inside of Hulkenberg, and Leclerc hard on the brakes, but we have a lock up there and don't quite make the corner. And because I am a benevolent F1 driver, I will give the place back to those two. But Hadjar, the sneaky little creature, has snuck through and is trying to take advantage and get past Nico Hulkenberg as well. He is going to do that. Albon retakes the position away from us, and even Antonelli is now trying to shove his front wing up the inside. He does so, but we're going to get the cutback there. He hits us out of anger for attempting to try and take P11 away from him, and we have to back off. So here's the onboard from Isaac Hadjar's perspective as he watched this absolute atrocity of an overtake unfold there. Leclerc was wide going into the chicane as well, so probably as a result of us straight lining the corner effectively. But there we go, he was passed. And now we've got all that work to do all over again as we come through the hairpin. Losing the rear again there. Might have gotten on the power a little bit too early. And we'll get past the Mercedes without any issue. We do have the Ferrari power unit in this car, and we are incredibly fast in a straight line with the DRS and also the ERS deployed as well. We seem to be having some issues with the harvesting of the ERS. It's not quite at the level I would like, so I may even branch off into doing some development work on that component just to try and prevent us from getting caught short in some of the later stages of the season. But we're back past Albon, even though he does have the tyre advantage. And up ahead we've got Nico Hulkenberg. Charles Leclerc has actually dropped Hadjar and is currently flying towards 130R right now as we again nearly drop the car ourselves. The AI, of course, even at level 82, 83, which they are here, still lift going through 130R, which gives us a great opportunity to dive around the outside, keeping it on the circuit this time, nearly all 4 tyres, I think, within the white lines, and we retake P9. Isaac Hadjar up ahead, but we've got a 1.7 second gap to close, which we have successfully done here. And given the nature of the soft tyres, they are going to be going off the boil around about now anyway, so Hadjar is going to be holding us up, so we need to make this move as quickly as possible, and we get it done before Spoon And round we go. Up ahead, Charles Leclerc is putting the pressure on Oscar Piastri. He might actually have that overtake done. Yes, he does off camera. And Isaac Hadjar now coming back at us. He's not happy that we've once again overtaken him. So tries to take that position away and then hold us up through the S's in Sector 1. Not good for us because he is going incredibly slow through here now as his tyres are beginning to go off the boil. So we'll have to try and get him a little bit later on or stay on board watching this as we come through the double right-hander. We're closing up quite substantially. Quite tricky to follow in this car at the moment. We'll be trying to improve the aero for that as well as we go to the outside at the hairpin. Leaving a little bit too much room there. I think he's going to sneak up the inside. Yes, he does. Pushes us onto the grass there. Didn't want to back out of it. That would be foolish. On the run down to Spoon. We're not going to have a look this time. We're just going to hold off just a little bit longer as we come through the second half of the corner. Nicely tucked into the apex there in the wake of the RB. Which is very nice. Not having any issues with downforce there, but he does pull away. He's obviously feeling threatened right now. Bit wide through 130R, but we're going to get a good run on him down towards the chicane. Taking that corner nice and tight there, right over the apex. And battery deployed. DRS open. We've got barely anything left in the tank, but we have got past him. And hopefully now we can drop him here. He will not be able to keep up with us through this section. And of course he doesn't. He's 6 seconds behind now and still hasn't come into the pits on lap 10. So he's probably struggling on tyres. Up ahead we've got Oscar Piastri. Another one of the high runners from Australia. As we see up ahead, that's Charles Leclerc coming into the pits on his hard. So he's one of the earliest stoppers on the hard. Piastri and Russell have stayed out. Verstappen's on the medium, so he's actually managed to create quite a large gap ahead of him. Norris is in the pits. I'm not sure if that was the soft that he just put on or took off, but we'll see later on. As we follow Russell down towards 130R. There'll be some more pit stops coming up soon, I would imagine, with Leclerc already coming in. I think we had the option here once again to do the 2 stop. We've elected to ignore that and go for the 1 stop as Russell pulls in. Looks like Piastri might be doing something similar here. And hopefully we can manage the gap to Verstappen. Perhaps not, though. He is right on the diffuser of Oscar Piastri as we come down towards the final chicane. Once Piastri gets overtaken, which he is highly likely to be here, we are going to be in the firing line of Max Verstappen. And there he goes, DRS open. Piastri sort of defends it and allows him through. We will be coming into the pit lane pretty shortly, though, for a set of medium tyres to take us to the end of the race. But not before we come under attack from Verstappen, who is running the softs. He will need to come in again. Oh, no, he won't. He started on the mediums. He will not be coming in again. At least not for the tyre regulations. Lock up there into the chicane. That is not going to help. He needs to make the most out of these tyres as we peel in. Verstappen, of course, is not going to get to the end on that set of stuff, so he will be coming back in. So we need to make this stint count. We're going on to the mediums, and I think Piastri as well. In the background there, Lando Norris coming around the final corner. There is that's Lewis Hamilton, actually, coming through. And Charles Leclerc just before he got hidden behind the pit wall. And we stay ahead of Piastri. Where is Tsunoda? Tsunoda's coming through here. The Japanese fans will be incredibly angry with us if Tsunoda is not allowed past. Of course, we will accept this fate and keep him behind us. And now, with most of the front runners, apart from Verstappen, running the medium, it's sort of leveled out the playing field here. But up ahead, Hamilton has Leclerc right behind him. Russell not far behind Leclerc, and then, of course, it's us and Piastri. Russell now under some pressure. The Mercedes, a good all-rounder car, but just not able to compete at this point in the season with the cars ahead. But hopefully they'll see some upgrades later on in the season. We are past him and we are ploughing down towards Charles Leclerc. 2-second gap. Once again, a bit like Australia, struggling in the opening sections. We just set the fastest sector 2 there as the time falls away for us. And, well, particularly for me, the ebbs and flows of doing these F1 circuits over and over comes back to me as Charles Leclerc comes into the pit lane. So he will be going, presumably, for a soft tyre stint to the end of the race. That was a bit of a surprise, to be honest. There's Hamilton. I think he's definitely going to be coming in anyway. There he goes. And Verstappen's in the pits as well, so he's going on to another set of softs or mediums, but it will be fresh rubber. We take control of the lead with 8 laps to go. Here comes Verstappen. Where does it come out for him? He is behind the Piastri-Russell battle, so Piastri stayed out with us on the one stop as well, but I didn't see if he was actually ahead of Russell already. Russell's apparently pitted in the meantime, but Verstappen has caught Piastri, and once again we find ourselves in this situation. We've got 5 laps to go, just over, and Max Verstappen on a fresh set of rubber. I can't see what tyres he's got on. I think it's soft. Will be chasing us down and probably not experiencing too much tyre wear until the final few laps of the race. So we are going to be vulnerable here. We've got a 2.5 second lead over Verstappen, which we've got to try and manage. And this is when we go into panic mode and start trying to string together a really nice set of corners. And apparently we've been able to do it, just about hanging on there as we join for the final lap. Verstappen within a second at this point. And we're all over the place because that 2-stop strategy has kind of left us with pretty worn tyres. He's gaining 6 tenths now. We come towards the double right-hander. He is going to be all over the back of us as we run down to 130R. And into the braking zone for the final chicane. We're going to have to be very cautious. Probably the best line we've taken all race through that hairpin. Out of desperation and fear that Verstappen is going to catch us and mount some kind of attack. We've actually got the gap back up to 8 tenths here. Into Spoon we go. Verstappen closing in. Relentless is his attack. And he brings the gap down as we go a little bit wide through the exit. It's down to half a second now. 4 tenths. He's closing in. 3 tenths now. He's got the slipstream on us. But he is going to lift through 130R, and that might just be the difference here as we go down to the final chicane. And Taylor Barnard, for the second time in Formula 1, will take victory here at the Japanese Grand Prix. He's lost control of the car. He's had a massive accident there at the final corner. Coming down, he is okay. He's pointing his finger in the air just to indicate to the crowd that he is alive and well. And he picks up driver of the day thanks to that awful qualifying that we had set us back quite far at the start of this race. And yeah, that is of course the reason why we will be up in the difficulty to 90 for the Bahrain Grand Prix, which is up next Tuesday for everybody watching, if you want to catch that one as it's uploaded. That is an uncomfortably long handshake for Taylor Barnard to endure there. But it's the champagne time, and we'll be on to the full race results and the standings as they are 2 races into the season. So here are the full results of the Japanese Grand Prix. Taylor Barnard, of course, taking the win with Max Verstappen in P2 and Oscar Piastri rounding out the podium. Further down the order, we had Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Yuki Tsunoda, Nico Hülkenberg and Alex Albon. Over to the Drivers' Championship, of course, Taylor Barnard still maintains his lead at the top of the table on 50 points. He's followed by Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, Kimi Antonelli, Yuki Tsunoda and Alex Albon. Further down the order, we have Nico Hulkenberg, Fernando Alonso, Isaac Hadjar, Ollie Behrman, Gabriel Bortoletto, Lance Stroll, Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, Carlos Sainz, Liam Lawson, Victor Martins, and Jack Hill. And finally, over to the constructors. McLaren maintain their lead at the top of the table over Slothz, but Ferrari and Red Bull are catching up for now. Mercedes, Williams, Kick Sauber, and Aston Martin round up the point scorers, with Racing Bulls, Haas, and Alpine yet to score. That's all for this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.